This is the Royals POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Kansas City Royals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to the Royals POSTCAST, which usually is hosted by Chance Lebo. And don't worry, Chance isn't going anywhere. I'm just filling in for you today as the Royals take down the Texas Rangers 4-1 to complete their first sweep in Arlington since 2003. Now, before we get started, I'm hoping that we got the connection all set up here so that we can see the comments here on the right. But if we run into any connection issues, just let me know in the comment page, and I guess we'll try to figure it out here. But been dealing with it now, as you can tell, with my podcast for about the last week or so, but never done the postcast before. So let's have some fun and talking about the Royals 4-1 victory. As always, you can check me out on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15, and that is at JOHNYJ_15. And you can never miss one of our postcast or podcast on our Royals channel or wherever you get your podcast. Now, I know a lot of people want to talk about the elephant in the room, so let's dive into what everybody's wanting to talk about, and that would be Jac Caglianone.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Maybe we should double down on it here in the second segment, but Jac Caglianone, you talk about impressive, and by far and away, the best performance of his young career. You could tell that the game that he had off, or maybe I should start back with the game before that, game one in Arlington. You saw the body language a little bit kind of show in a negative way in the dugout, on the field. And I would say that was one of the bigger reasons as to why he sat on what would that have been? Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. When he sat on Wednesday's game, it was just a little bit of a reset. You've got a tough lefty going in Patrick Corbin, and you've got this, bullpen game on Thursday today where he might be able to flex his muscles a little bit. And in that first at bat, you could tell that he was a little bit more patient, but also I would say that he was getting back into the same problems he was running into prior to getting not benched, just the day off the day before. And the two strikes that he swung at and then took in that at bat were really good pitches. I mean, those were tough pitches from a lefty. He was watching 95 on the black, and that was something that he was seeing a lot of prior to having that day off on Wednesday. But the pitch he hit, his first home run, that's pretty inhuman. There are very few players in baseball that could connect on a pitch like that. He's 6'5", so he's a big kid. We all know that he's a big kid. But that pitch was near his eyes. And that kind of goes back to this aggressiveness that he brought to him in college, from high school to college, from college to the minor leagues, and from the minor leagues to the big league level. He's always going to be an aggressive hitter. And when I talked to Matt Quatrero a few weeks back about that, and getting to full count, spitting on some tough pitches, he still said we don't want that aggressiveness to go away. And we said on our podcast not too long ago that he's up here to do what he did today. He is up here to drive in runs, to put the ball 450 feet from home plate. And if it means swinging at some bad pitches from time to time, that's all right if you can do damage with them. Now, prior to the game he got off, there was some really bad pitches that he was swinging at, and he was swinging over the top of, and he was getting under, and he was clearly frustrated, visibly frustrated. But today is one of those reasons why you don't discourage that. You want to spit on the pitches that have no chance of being hit. If you get that 12-6 curveball and it bounces in front of the plate, you're not doing anything with that unless you were to somehow connect with it after bouncing off the dirt, which never is a good thing. Those are pitches you want him to spit on. But man, pitches that are up in the zone, he's got the strength and the arm length to get that done. And not just get an opposite field single out of it a double into the gap. We're talking about drilling a ball over the fence. We're talking about hitting a ball 380 feet from home plate. And as I'm looking here with the comment section, we got about 30 or so far. I mean, Jac Caglianone's the talk. Absolutely the talk of what occurred today. It takes away a little bit from what Michael Wacha did and what this bullpen did. But I would say, going to Tony's point here, maybe that is the game that takes the pressure off of his shoulders. Because we all knew that coming up from AAA, he was maybe not seen as the savior, but he was expected to do something. He was expected to come up and add the power element and find a way to run into more than a few in that early time period of being a rookie. Like, you weren't expecting him to come up and hit 450 and have 10 home runs in the first 2 weeks of the season. But we definitely didn't expect no home runs and hitting sub 200 over the first 50 to 55 plate appearances. So he's had this pressure on him of an offense that's playing at a bottom 5 level. They have no power. Even their guys that possess that type of power aren't driving the ball out of the yard. So he, as a human, knows that. Even as a 22-year-old rookie, he knows that I'm up here to drive in runs. I'm up here to hit with power. And you got that pressure, and every rookie has pressure. Noah Cameron has pressure. John Rave has pressure. These guys you bring up to be seen as a replacement or to be seen as the solution, they're going to carry that weight with them. And when you're carrying that weight with them, you're going to have some ugly stretches early on in the career. And what we talked about in our podcast was that sometimes those early struggles in a rookie's career can do good things for them down the road. And it's why, I look back to Nick Kurtz's, big league debut in the first couple of weeks. The Athletics offense was playing at a high level, and he was able to just sort of slide into that lineup. And his struggles went a little bit unnoticed because the A's were still hitting the ball all over the yard. Their pitching staff, however, couldn't keep anybody down. So Kurtz had more of a different entrance to big league ball than Caglianone did. And with Jac Caglianone, you knew it was only a matter of time, making some of those adjustments, waiting for the right pitches. And even today, you could make a strong case those were not great pitches to swing at. One's at his eyes, and then his home run in the 9th inning was at the bottom right corner of the zone. I mean, it's down and in. But he was clearly sitting on that pitch in that spot, and he drove it, absolutely demolished it. And that is the type of phenom that he is. I mean, it's ridiculous, the tools that he has. And yeah, I'm there with Tony's comment. Maybe that is the swing, or the two swings, I should say, to get him going. And by the way, one of his swings in which he grounded out to second, it was still crushed. I mean, he absolutely smoked it. And to do this after an off day, that is important in every single aspect. Because you sit, you're eager, you're chomping at the bit to get back out there, and you don't want to overdo it. You want to just go in there and put good swings on the ball. And he put 3 really good swings on the ball today. And if that's something that gets him going, I mean, look out for the middle of that order. And this overall was a great series. As I said, in opening up this first postcast that I'm filling in for, I wanted to talk about the game as a whole. And I was going to up until Jac Caglianone's second home run. So maybe we'll just flip what we're talking about with Jac Caglianone starting off this postcast. And then we'll be diving into the overall outlook of this series. But, this is such a good feeling series. You come off a treacherous homestand. You don't win a game. You get swept by one of the worst teams in the American League who had a bottom pitching staff in all of baseball. You have that team meeting on Sunday. You go out and lose on Sunday 3-2. Then you head off on the road and take on a Rangers team that had won 4 straight. And they're playing at home. That's the second best pitching staff in all of baseball. And you go out there and score 16 runs, I believe it was. Yeah, 16 runs in the 3 games. Maybe that is something that gets you going. And maybe those were some of the things that were addressed in the team meeting. But Jac Caglianone, man, I mean, his OPS going into the game was under 500. On the fly, I'm going to be taking a look at this right now, but I'd be pretty surprised if those aren't the two swings that get him going. Because everybody talks about the power. Nationally, people talk about the power. And the 4-hit game was really nice. It was also against the White Sox when the Royals are trying to avoid a sweep. This was a 2-home run game when you're trying to pull off a sweep against the team that's ahead of you in the standings. But after his 2 home runs, how fitting is that? It was about 467 going into today. His OPS after his 2-for-4 day with 2 home runs, 596. It's how quickly some of these things can change. Okay, we are going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the overall outlook of this series and dive into Michael Wacha's outing. You are listening to the Royals Postcast on the Locked On Royals channel, your team every day. We are back here on the Locked On Royals Postcast. I'm your host today, Jack Johnson. I do the podcast daily, but I'm filling in for Chance Lebo. But not to worry, Chance is not going anywhere, and he should be back for tomorrow's game, which will be Game 1 in San Diego against the Padres. Now, before we move any further, real quickly, we are going to dive into today's sponsors, beginning with Trade Coffee. Let's be real, coffee isn't just a drink, it's a ritual, a lifeline, and the thing that gets you half asleep to fully functioning. And if that's essential, why settle for anything less than amazing? That's where Trade Coffee comes in. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S., delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew fan or a pour-over purist, they've got a roast that you will love. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customer 50% off on your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's TRADE.com/lockedonmlb for 50% off on that 1-month trial. Also want to tell you about Gametime. Have you ever decided that at the last minute you want to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime will make it possible. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and download their app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Those terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's get back to some of the comments here. We do have a reminder that the game tomorrow is on Apple TV. We talked about that on my podcast earlier this morning. Also, the game on Saturday will be on Fox. But real quickly, to wrap up this quick postcast, I'm still getting used to it. I'm sure a couple of times I'll fill in for Chance, but only 15 minutes or 15 to 17 minutes to get this done. Jac Caglianone, of course, the talk, and he is going to be the talk for the next 24 hours. But I also want to tip my cap to Michael Wacha. Both he and Seth Lugo just had veteran outings in this series. You get 6 runs, a one-run ball from Seth Lugo, and the same exact thing for Michael Wacha. Wacha also took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. So he took a little bit of the run support that he got and continued to cruise. And how about this bullpen? I mean, John Schreiber got roughed up a little bit on the homestand, came in and just completely squandered the lead a couple of times, both in Noah Cameron outings. I know one of those was in St. Louis in their last road trip, but he was great today. Angel Serpa continues just to throw darts. You know, he's got one of the best sinkers in the game. And by the way, he's got the 2nd highest ground ball rate among relievers in all of baseball, trailing only Johan Durant, who gets the benefit of throwing 104 miles an hour and a 98 mile an hour splinter. But Serpa continuing to pound the zone, get ground balls, get out of jams. And Carlos Estevez now tied for the league lead in saves with 21. And we're headed off to San Diego, where he's tied with the guy closing out games for San Diego and Robert Suarez. So a fun series. Man, did it feel good to get a sweep. You desperately needed something like that, especially for a team that was ahead of you in the standings. Now you're gaining some ground a little bit, and you're going to have an opportunity to take this momentum into the weekend and try to pull off another series victory against the San Diego Padres. Then you'll come back home. You're going to have the Tampa Bay Rays. You're also going to have the Los Angeles Dodgers. So to sweep the first of a really tough stretch, the first series of a really tough stretch, vitally important because we've talked about this before. These next few weeks are going to decide whether they're buyers or they're sellers. And to start it off with a sweep in Arlington, a place you haven't swept the Rangers in 22 years, that's a great way to start it. And I have no idea what was said in the players-only meeting. That's why it was a players-only meeting. But it clearly resonated going into the road trip. It maybe didn't resonate on Sunday when they lost 3-2 to the Athletics, but that's behind us now. And now the Royals have won 3 straight. They're a game under 500 and just a couple of games back of a wild card spot. So we'll see what happens this weekend. It'll be the Royals and the Padres. Michael Lorenzen will get the ball in game 1. He is going to square off with Nick Pivetta, and that game will be on Apple TV. So I'm sure the Royals will tweet out something where you can get the link, do the free trial. And then on Saturday, it'll still be on FanDuel Sports Network, but you will have a nationally televised game in Fox. Noah Cameron gets the ball. He's going up against former White Sox and Dylan Cease. And then on Sunday, Randy Vasquez going for San Diego. And it will be Seth Lugo, the former Padre, going for the Royals. So you got some momentum now. Jac Caglianone has some momentum. We've gotten about 40-some comments. Don't worry, I'm reading every single one of them as best I can. This is a new format for me. So thank you for sticking with me. I know I'm not doing this as great as Chance does, but we'll be back on Friday for our podcast, so Mailbag Friday. You can leave your questions and comments below on this video, on my video this morning, and then Chance will be back on the saddle for tomorrow night's game, a very late night first pitch because they are on the West Coast. But that is going to do it for another Royals postcast here on the Locked On Royals channel. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you enjoyed that 3-game sweep for the Kansas City Royals. You take it easy, Kansas City.